Hello and welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. We have a special guest this week. It is Kate Cherichello. She does a lot of things, all of which are awesome. So she's an actor, she's a host, she's a dancer, she's a fitness pro. She's the host of Be the Good podcast, which I was a guest on. So you can go check out Be the Good podcast as well. And if you want to find Kate, go to katecherichello.com. She's also on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the good socials. You can find those there. We're going to find out more about how she plays for a living. But if you need to rediscover the power of play, go to playfulhumans.com. Here we go. All right, Kate, welcome to the podcast. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by Dead Batteries. I don't know if you know it right now, but you can get a great deal on Dead Batteries. They are free of charge, but they're great. Okay, what's the difference between ignorance and apathy?
What?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Excellent.
There we go. All right, get us started with a laugh. And now, the first question for you is easy. Just tell us about how you play for a living.
Oh, I guess it's easy, but it's also very multifaceted. I am a performer and, like you said, Mike, host and in the fitness world. And I really feel like all of those involve play very much. As a performer, I've been grateful to get to be on stages all over the country and on the screen in various outlets, either being a very serious character, which still feels like play because you're on a set in costume all day, or a very fun over-the-top character, which is definitely play. And the hosting space, I host Be the Good with Kate, and hearing people's stories and interacting with humans. I mean, there's always an element of play just in that, right? And just in interacting with people. And that leads me to that third aspect, which is the fitness side of things. I am a certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor here in New York City and virtually everywhere as well, thanks to technology. And that is just, I mean, how much fun is that? You know, I could be rejected all day long from auditions, and then I go to teach a fitness class and everyone's like, yes, here we go, burpees, you know, and it's that energy is just wonderful.
I love that too, and I can so much relate. We have a lot in common there. Really, not about anything in common, except for the way we've put our careers together of like hosting and doing random different things. I do game shows, and you'll do fitness classes or other things. And I found that same thing true, that audiences are so different. A lot of times you bring the same energy every time, but depending on the guest on the podcast or depending on the audience that you're performing for, they could have wildly different outcomes. And for me, that's what makes life interesting. I love seeing what the next guest brings or what the next team building event looks like that I go to. But what is most exciting for you about this whole thing? What makes it fun for you? And why did you choose this over maybe selling insurance somewhere?
That's a great question. I mean, it was something, you know, just from as far back as I can remember. I was singing, I was dancing, I was creating things, crafts, creating dances, creating shows in my backyard. I mean, I had a dance craft camp in the backyard for all the little kids when I was 11. So I was the big kid at the very old age of 11 who created this weekdays in the summer camp, and that was one of my first jobs. So it was just, there was always been this creativity and turning it into an entrepreneurship somehow, some way. And that really just led to, and thankfully I have supportive parents who are like, just go to college, but whatever you want to make happen after that is fine, just go there. And it's been, I mean, the industry itself is chaotic and so unreliable and all of that, but to go back to, you know, what the whole idea of this show is, the play in it all. And that is where we can really remind ourselves, like, that's why we do it, because we are creative human beings. And I just never wanted a job where I sat at a desk. And it was very apparent, like, you know, with the pandemic too, when all of a sudden we were stuck inside all the time, that I just was like, get me outside, just let me walk, just let me do anything that is not just sitting here. Because it is, when you're, especially when you're used to this go, 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 and everything changes every day, it is a whole 180 went to just sit at a computer or do a job that is very repetitive.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Now, I think there's value to both, which is another
Oh,
kind of interesting
absolutely.
conversation. Is that like what makes life interesting is the movement between order and chaos, but
Mm,
like all order is boring and it's very stressful because you're trying to keep all your ducks in a row, and that's not really how life works, or ducks, for that matter. But
right.
on the chaos side, if you're only living in chaos, and let's say like you're only auditioning and stuff and you never have a stable job, or it's always like one off different random shows every week and you never know where your next paycheck's coming from, that can be challenging
Mm.
and stressful too. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
wondering how you balance those two and really make
Mm.
a career out of it. Part of what I want to do with this podcast is help people realize that sometimes there's more stability in having five jobs than there is having one good job.
I
Because
know we got to
you're not
talk
going to
about
lose all
that
five
too.
jobs at the
Yeah.
same time, right? Although the pandemic came
Absolutely.
close for us entertainers. Yeah.
That is true. But again, like shifting to virtual and all of that was pretty impressive. The creative people that came up with even more creative ways to make work, no
And a
matter
lot of
what
people lost
industry.
their one stable job too. So I don't feel
Mhm.
like yeah, that is
Yeah.
anything to do with. So how do you think about that in your career?
Yeah. I was very fortunate to find the fitness industry back in college. And before that, I got a job in high school as a waiter, because what I knew as a 15-year-old in the suburbs, it was when you go to New York, you become a waiter. And that's when you then become a performer, right? You have to be a waiter while you audition. And to find that, okay, there's a whole lot of other things you can be and do. And to be so grateful that I got the fitness side, fitness world, kind of, because that is a fulfilling way to make money and have that stability, to then contrast with performing side, which is very much like, I don't know, we'll see, will I work a lot of days this year, not many days this year? And it doesn't matter how talented you are or how many auditions even you go to, sometimes it's just, were you right for the role? Or there's always a joke about, do you look like the casting director's ex-wife? Then you're never getting the job. Like, that's just one of the jokes, that gets thrown around. But having the both of these, and both that, I never felt like fitness was a side job or a survival job. It was always
Mhm.
another passion. And so I've been very grateful for that, and that's how I've been able to balance that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very similar story for me. I've kind of
Mm.
never had more than or less than two jobs my whole adult life. And I feel like mixing three passions is what kind of makes things interesting. So, I've done sales training for like 20
Yeah.
years. My dad was a sales trainer, and I love that part of the job. And I love studying it and the human psychology behind it and everything. I also
Yeah.
love entertainment. I was on the radio and DJ'd and all kinds of cool things. And I have built a lot of websites and do online
Mhm.
courses or internet marketing for different companies or myself, or the sales training. And when you mix all three of those together, that's what makes me special and
Mhm.
unique. But at any given point in the career, I might be making more money doing internet marketing than I am public speaking, or I might be making more entertaining than I am doing sales training, or vice versa. And I found that that's okay for me. That sometimes it's fun to switch those back and forth and
Mm.
have different things going at different speeds, or different economies have different
Yeah,
needs and timing for people. And so
very much
um,
so.
it's
And they all
stable and
feed.
unique in an odd way that's not stressful.
Oh, that's good. That's a huge place to get to as someone with a lot of jobs, for sure. Yeah, and they all feed one another too. Don't you find that too? Like the skills you use in
Yeah.
one are helping you do the other job. I always think like a fitness instructor is absolutely an actor. You're standing in front of people, and no matter how you feel, you have to be there 100%. Like, you are so excited to do this with them, even if you feel terrible. And that's very much acting. I have a friend who's a lawyer who has gone to training to be more like an actor, which will then help her be a better lawyer. So everything feeds.
Yeah, I agree. And you learn so much when you do different types of things.
Yes.
So I think for me, I think about it like merit badges in the scouts. You know, it's like you want to level up your career. You want to collect enough skills to get to the next level and maybe make more money or get more respect or whatever you feel like your definition of success is. But in order to do that, you got to collect these other small skills. And so you think about it like going on missions in a video game or collecting skill packs. They're like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn computers and internet marketing to promote this thing that I'm working on over here. But then I'm also going to learn some improv skills so that I can do better
Mm-hmm.
when I'm performing this role and things over here. And if I collect enough of those, I feel like good things happen for me. And I feel like I'm learning and growing as a human,
Yes.
which is really important too. Um, how do you know when you're in flow and having like the most fun? What is the most
Mm.
fun for you?
Great question. Historically, I feel like it is when I am in a project where it's a team of people and I am in the performing side. That just fills me. It's that fire within your soul they talk about as being on stage or being on set. I mean, I feel like those are the ultimate playgrounds for me, a set or a stage. I love being in one of those places, and I don't know which one I love more. I go back and forth depending on the day, but so if it's working on a musical and you're surrounded by people who are all creating this big event, or the same thing with a being on set and you've got all these different people and the cameraman and the director and the PAs are all running around doing their jobs and I'm like a piece of that. I Yes, though one of those scenarios.
That's really interesting. And you brought up something I think we might also have in common. On my website, actually, I'll throw up the link there, playfulhumans.com/quiz. There's a personality quiz where you can
Mm-hmm.
find out which type of play is best for you. A lot of people think, play is just being silly and frivolous or telling jokes or something. And maybe a joker is one playful personality, but there's another one called the director where you like to kind of facilitate fun for other people, maybe like host parties or host a podcast.
Mm.
Or what I was hearing you and some of these other events is like working with other people is more entertaining and it's more social. But I go back and forth on this. So for me, sometimes I feel like, oh, this is about me. It's my show. It's my podcast. I definitely like being on camera and on stage and look, all the lights and attention is on me when I'm giving a keynote speech. But I also feel like I like it because I'm there for them. I'm showing up because I'm trying to help them do better in their life. I'm sharing knowledge and I'm really up there to give. And that makes me feel my best. How do you think about that? Do you feel like it's more intrinsic motivation for you to do all these things? Or is it the extrinsic, like I'm really facilitating fun for other people?
That's a great point. And what came to mind immediately is something I don't know when it started, but this thought came into my head. I want to say like eighth grade, freshman year of high school, maybe, that I wanted to be a performer with enough clout to get asked to do charity events because I just
Mhm.
wanted, that's all I needed. I never wanted to be famous or anything like that. I just wanted enough credits that people would ask me to be the speaker or the singer at their charity events. And that has been kind of the thing all these years of it does go back to like, yes, like you said, I love being there. The lights are on me, but it would be nothing if it wasn't for the benefit of the people in the audience, right? So to get to make someone feel, whether that's feel better, feel happy, or
Mhm.
just see something in a new way, a heavy play is still amazing and beautiful art because you're feeling something, you're seeing something in a different way. It's all of those emotions. And like your happy dappy musical, you're just going to leave smiling. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. So, yes, I feel you with that the lights are on me, but it's about the audience.
Yeah, and we both do interview podcasts too,
Mhm.
which I think like if I was really narcissistic and it was really all about me, my show would be all about me. But
Yeah, yeah,
I love
you would have no
featuring
guess.
other people and meeting other people and hearing their cool stories. So tell us about Be the Good podcast. Why did you start that and what's that all about?
Right. So during the height of the pandemic, when all the news was bad news, it felt like And it was just constant. And you're stuck inside. So you're just hearing all of this. I couldn't do it. I am an eternally optimistic person. And I totally know that we need to hear the negative because it's so important to be up on current events and know how to sympathize, like all of the things. But I needed that outlet for something positive. Along with that, performing had stopped. And I love interviewing, but I had no examples of me interviewing people on camera. So I thought, well, I need a way to keep my on camera muscles going, so to speak. I could interview. And so I started this show, and I didn't know yet if it was going to be a YouTube show or a podcast. Turns out it now is both, but mainly podcast. And I scheduled 2 guests because, again, this kind of goes with like working with others. If it was just me, I might have never clicked record. But the second I sent that email to someone saying, would you like to be a guest? And they said yes, well, then it had to happen, right? So I don't know if you had anything similar when you started, but once that started, that it just kept going and guests kept popping out of the woodwork. And now tomorrow I release episode 66. So
That's so awesome.
right,
And it's great.
right.
It was a great fun show for me to be on, and I had a blast on it. So go check out Be the Good with Kate
Yeah,
Cherichello at YouTube or wherever you're listening to
yeah.
this podcast. That would be a great place to start.
Thank you.
I did feel very similar. Two things I like about podcasting. Number one is you have to be very present. So doing it
Mm-hmm.
live makes me feel like I set an appointment with my audience. We're doing it, we're going, or even if when I was recording, my guest is showing up, I better show up and bring my best effort. So there's a little bit of like accountability there, but
Yeah.
also being in the present moment and just being focused on what's in front of you. That's great. The other thing about guests is the pressure is not on you as much. Like, I think I
Yeah.
would have burnt myself out or run out of interesting things to say. But one of my podcasts, the How to Succeed podcast for the
Yeah.
sales training company, we're going to cross 600 episodes and over 3 million downloads. And we wouldn't have done that if it was just me making up some sales tip every week. Like, there's no way I could have kept that going for over 7 years now. So I think
Totally.
there's definitely some cool opportunities in this medium, and there's a cool um, environment, right? That you get
Yeah.
to meet people, you keep it fresh, you keep your skills sharp,
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
learn along the way. And so the shows are a
Yes.
lot different than they were when they started too.
Absolutely. I've learned so much. I mean, I've talked to people from India and Japan, and, someone that I learned lives a block away from me. I mean, the whole gamut, as I'm sure you have too. And it is so fascinating. And going back to kind of like with performing and how I said, make you think in a different way. It So many people have just made me think, wow, I never knew maybe this existed, or I never knew this was a job, or I never thought about this subject in this way. And it's made me grow as a person too. Anytime that I had, like you said, it's scheduled, no matter how I was feeling, I had to be there. And 20, 30 minutes later, no matter how I felt when I started, I always felt so much better by the end because every guest, no matter what challenges and obstacles that they have gone through, the whole idea of Be the Good with Kate is people finding their passions and then making the world a better place along the way because of them. And so the ending is always, this is now what I'm doing despite these challenges and making it through. So it is. And you have also, a podcast that's just all things that are upbeat and exciting. So it's for as much
Yeah,
as
I
the
don't get the
audience is,
people
it
that
brings us up.
I understand the true crime podcast because they're like, you want to feel better about yourself and watching somebody else that's miserable or like the tension and drama of it. But I don't understand people maybe that create those things because, like, why would you want to surround yourself with death and murder all the time? Like, I
Way
want
too
playful
heavy.
humans on my show. I
Yes,
want to be
yes.
inspired to be more playful and happy every week. And I think there's something about showing up every week too. When you do a
Mm,
recurring podcast, if it's just a series, you don't
mm,
get that same um like benefit of doing it week in week out of
yeah.
showing up when I've had COVID or had a bad day and really getting the benefit and that habit built, I think is really cool. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about that too, and kind of ask you what is next, because I know
Mm.
when you have a lot of these things going on, is there a big like pipe dream like ideal situation? What would be the most fun on your fun bucket list, or anything you still want to accomplish with any of these projects?
Oh, definitely. I feel like there's just so much more to do and so much more to grow. I'd say the two, again, because it goes back to stage or screen. I don't know. They both are pretty high up on the list. They're pretty even. So either being in a running Broadway show or being in my dream on screen is to be a Hallmark regular. I don't need
Oh,
anything super intense. I don't need anything that's going up to the Golden Globes or the Emmys or the Oscars. Hallmark, it just makes people feel good. You get to be in Christmas land for like half the year, if not more.
yeah.
Honestly, that is an absolute dream. Be on set doing Hallmark movies or television shows and then interviewing people on the off days about doing good and growing Be the Good with Kate. Like that would be absolutely, that's the goal set up.
I love that answer. I love that answer for you for sure.
Thank you.
For me, I feel like it's more game shows and things,
Yes.
or really a powerful like motivational speaker, or somebody that
Yes.
is like live on stage and getting to do some sort of regular performance. And some of those guys and gals make sick money too. It's like
Oh, yeah.
50,000 or 100,000 for like a 40-minute talk. And I don't know, maybe I'm not driven the same way they are, but I would work like 2 days a year. And the rest of the time I'd be doing my podcast,
Good to
or
go.
whatever, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
but be able to make, yeah, above 30,000 for a talk would be a cool bucket list item for me.
Putting that out into the world for 2023.
Do it. So if you know anybody at Hallmark, call Kate. If you know anybody with Tony Robbins, or somebody
Yeah.
putting together a speaking tour, give me a call, and we'll do that. Now,
Love it.
I want to ask you one serious question, and then we'll play a game and
Uh-huh.
wrap up. But since you've been doing this and working on it so bad, do you have any tips for people that lose their way, especially this time of year, if they're feeling burnout or
Mm,
bored in their career? What do you do when you feel like you've lost your mojo? How do you
wow.
recharge that?
Great question. Uh, a couple ways. The one that definitely is at the forefront of my mind here is I find it very helpful to write things down. I have so many different notebooks of whether it's goals or when I've listened to someone super inspirational talk, writing down notes from them, and then just letting yourself write down everything you want to accomplish and then cutting it down to what needs to get done or what do you most want to get done and just letting it go from a big list to a smaller list to a smaller list until hopefully you have just a few things that really sets your soul on fire like I mentioned before, or at least will bring you some calm if you can get
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z done, you know, really going to the priorities of it. So that's why I like to start with just writing everything, anything you can think of, and then starting to bring it down. And the health coaching side of me also says, you know, focusing on what you can do step by step rather than everything at once. And that also goes with the making your list smaller. It's what's the one thing I can do today? And that could be I'm going to exit my house and take a 10-minute walk and come back. And if that's the one thing, that is amazing because a 10-minute walk brings so much clarity and just such a renewal of energy. So just to be very specific with that example, but anything along those lines.
I love that. All great advice. I thought that where you were going to go was with the fitness. I feel like
Yeah.
the great quote was it Winston Churchill? If you're going through hell, keep going.
Oh,
Like that's
yep.
not the place to stop. So I think if you're having a bad day, bad hour, whatever, bad year, like keep going, get moving, moving your body, moving your
Oh,
environment, change
yes.
something. I feel like is the best way to do it.
Oh,
Normally, sitting where you're at is not going to be great, but I love the journaling
moving.
too. Writing it
Yeah.
down gets it out of your head. It's taking action on it so your brain can let it go then, and stuff. That's another great
Yeah.
tip.
But a hashtag that is on almost every fitness related thing I post is movement is medicine because it is, you know, and I felt my worst, but had to show up because I'm getting paid to teach a class. I feel it's just like when we said about having guests, you feel better afterwards. Same thing. I have to teach a class and I feel awful at the start. I feel amazing afterwards. And it's like the whole day has been turned around. And that is definitely something I remind myself on days I'm not teaching, but need that, like, oh, I got to get out of a rut for sure.
I love it. Kate, are you ready to play a game?
So ready. Here we go.
All right, let's do this. You are playing Survey Says. Survey Says. Okay. We surveyed 100 people. I have the top answers on the card. We're looking for one of the most popular answers. And you can play along. Join the conversation. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Play along in the comments with us here. Name a complaint people have about city streets.
Oh, garbage.
Ooh, garbage is yes, number 2. Dirty, litter. Number
Traffic.
1, they're rough, especially in the wintertime. Traffic, not well lit, not wide enough, or limited parking. Also,
yes. And I can see all of those things right outside my window here in New York City.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Pretty hard to miss that one, I would think. All right, name a device some people can't just figure out how to work.
A smartphone.
Phone's definitely up there. Number 3, VCR and DVD player or DVR, number 1. Computer, number 2. Remote control, number 4. I feel like that's still on the TV range. And GameCube somehow made the list, but video games for sure. All right, last one. You've already won, but this one is for the clean sweep. Okay. Name a kind of place where you see people constantly checking the time.
What would be in the top 3 here? Checking the time. The stock exchange.
Ooh, I'll count it.
Okay.
Work is the number 1 answer. Work.
Okay.
Travel, cool. So train station, airport, bus stop, all in the top there as well. And then the doctor's office, hospital, or church, school, those things where you're like waiting to get out,
yes.
Kind of thing for sure. All right, awesome. Congratulations, Kate. You win, which means the podcast is yours. Whatever you would like to do with the time here, any asks for us or anything you can give us, asks or gives for the audience?
I ask everybody to check out Be the Good with Kate. If you need that dose of inspiration, it complements very well to Playful Humans. And check out Mike's episode. It was just a couple of weeks ago, and it is so fun and such a delight. I ask you, if you're on Instagram, check me out at positively_Kate and say hello. I'd love to hear from you. And be sure you're subscribing to Playful Humans.
Hey, there you go. Giving one back. I appreciate it. Again, it's Kate Cherichello. Go to katecherichello.com or follow on those social media channels. And I love to be the good podcast too. So lots of love to go around. If you are looking to rediscover the power of play, go to playfulhumans.com. Take the quiz and discover your playful personality or maybe how burnt out you are. Those are fun BuzzFeed style quizzes. Also, we have some sponsors. So Benetix gives away concert tickets, theater tickets, sporting event tickets as employee benefits, maybe for your next sales contest or something fun you want to do for a culture building event. Go check out playfulhumans.com/sponsors. See you next time. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sun.